Single hand spey casting. I wanted to talk about that today. I think there's a strong case that the OPST commando system would be a great starter kit if you're wanting to get into single hand spey casting. And the reason I think that is they have everything figured out. That's all they do. They have good customer service from what I understand. If you need to know what line for your rod, you check with them. In this video I'm doing, I'm not using the OPST. I just did a homemade one myself. Just chopped a short, heavy Skagit line from the butt section of an old Airflo Rage I had. Used a commando micro floating tip. It overheads nice, and it works real nice for what I was doing yesterday, stripping a little woolly booger. This system is not my first choice for delicate presentations and teeny flies over spooky fish. I wanted to show you a few things about casting these and why I think they're great training wheels. If you want to teach a kid to fly cast or cast, they're a great system to use. I just like using them anyway, but for learning, they're awesome. So I just wanted to show a few things here. There I am, about casting these things, and that is this. It is just a roll cast. I'm going to hold the line, the rod, way over my head, and then just give it a roll cast. The trick to casting these things is to do everything really slow, and remember it's a roll cast. I'm going to strip it in. I lift the line way up high. Boom. That's all you need to do. When you're just starting out, stand on a rock and cast it like a spinning rod. You can just stand there on a rock a couple feet above the surface of the water. Boom. They'll cast without the D-loop. I want to just show that you can actually make a D-loop with these little heads by holding your rod very high and swinging it back and forth. You don't want to cast like that forever, but just to get the idea, I make my D-loop just by raising my hands and the tip of my rod up. I'm going to just drag the fly in. Well, right there I kind of lifted it off the water and did a little switch cast. Here I'm going to just drag the fly in, make a little D-loop, boom. If you're very simplistic about it, you can have a ball. I was catching little bass and crappie, just stripping a little woolly booger. And if you look behind me, you can see that I didn't really have a lot of places that I could overhead cast. I did straight across from me, but I was also using snake roll casts and every kind of cast you can think of. Lots of single spays, lots of spiral spays. The idea is to start with this roll cast. Well, that's a snake roll. But notice how slow I did it. That's what you can take away. Now I'm going to drag this in, make a little D-loop, and throw it. If you can just start like that and forget about the ripping the water and the water tear at this point, that comes later. Okay, here's another little D-loop, 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 and a cast. That's all you need to do. That'll get you started. See, right there, a simple roll cast. Okay, right here, oh, I'm doing this thing I learned. It's pretty cool. There's a little two-handed single spey. There's another little single spey. You don't want to overpower the D-loop when you have a light floating tip and a heavy Skagit head or body on the thing, heavy belly and a light tip. it's very important just to make a little delicate D-loop and then forward cast it. If you try to get too powerful with your D-loop, if you try to do a peel your line too aggressively, it'll basically blow your anchor. Not that they won't cast without a, they'll cast fine with a blown anchor for the most part. But if you remember, it's the weight of that heavy little Skagit head that is going to basically give your rod the load for on the back cast to forward cast it. All you have to have is a little bit of a D-loop. Of course, you can have a bigger one, but if you have a little D-loop and just keep most of that big, fat, heavy little belly off the water surface, it's going to cast good enough to get the feel going. And then once you get used to the idea, you just want to grasp the idea to start with, and then you can start adding. See, there's a little parry poke, but I lifted it and did it very gently. As you graduate to heavier sink tips and maybe a little heavier flies, then is when you might want to start peeling the water with your sweep. But until then, don't overthink it. Just delicate little casts, get the idea, get the understanding. All of the setups, the snake rolls, the snap tees, the parry pokes, they're just ways of getting your line in position to cast. That's all those are for. A very good video to watch. Watch Simon and Garfunkel. Watch Simon Gosworth in his, I think he has a presentation called Single Hand Spey Casting. He's an excellent teacher, and I would start with him, actually, because he makes it real simple what is actually going on. Then once you get the feel of that, and that you just need an understanding. Once you have the understanding, then you can go for the more advanced techniques of casting heavier flies and heavier sink tips. But I just enjoy stripping little woolly boogers for little fish, being able to stand one place and cast, up the bank one way and up the bank the next way and across the bank and quartering the bank, overhead casting and all the Spey casts. When the fishing gets really poor, then I just play with my casts. Tons to learn, tons to practice. And I wasn't a big fan of them for lake fishing. I just thought, that's a stretch. But now, that's probably the first thing I would go to in a little situation like this. Because if you're doing regular overhead casting, all you have is one or two targets you can aim for without getting your back cast hung up in the brush. So I strongly recommend any of these lines that'll Spey cast. The thing I like about the OPST is they have good customer service. They do this, that's all they do. And if you are unsure of what to use on your particular rod, you can always contact them. But there's other great choices. Rio has their single hand Spey line, and it's a line that you can make delicate presentations to spooky trout with. It doesn't Spey cast as easy as these little short shooting heads, but it is pretty versatile if you are a hardcore trout fisherman and you want to add Spey casting to your overhead cast, but you want to overhead cast for spooky trout and that kind of thing. The other good lines, Airflo Skagit Scout, that's a good belly. You could combine that with the micro Skagit tip that OPST makes. There's Rio has a single hand trout line now. It comes in a shooting head, I know that for sure. It's about 10 feet shorter than their single hand Spey line, which is 33 feet, and that's kind of a handful for a new caster. The other great choice is Wolf Ambush. Well, Wolf Ambush comes in a short, and then a regular. It's a good system for casting heavier flies too. Would probably be great with a floating tip like I'm using here. There's lots of good ways to go. The other idea you might want to try, if you are more into the Spey casting, you have a little more room, a little longer rod, the Airflo 40 Plus is a good choice that a lot of guys that are good Spey casters use, and you can bring the belly inside the head and it'll cast pretty good. It won't give you that really cool feel that the Airflo or that the OPST gives you, but nevertheless, I mean, if you're into the fishing and you want to fish a long ways away and a medium ways away, then that's a good way to go. Lots of good choices out there. Once you have the idea of the basic roll cast and start adding some more dynamic D-loops by a little bit, maybe accelerated sweep, but not much. You do not want to overpower your sweep. Those are really reserved for longer lines. The super short ones you can haul on the forward cast, and that is a really good way to get some extra power into your forward cast, is to sweep without the haul and then haul on your forward cast. If you do like to cast heavy flies and heavy tips, that's when I would probably go for the turbo haul on the sweep and the forward cast. Hauling is a real effective way to add some power into your sweep and your forward stroke. By far the most powerful short Skagit head is the Rio Trout Max short. Mine is kind of copied from that just because I happen to have a chopped section of line that was 11 feet and 230 grains. Anyway, that is a powerhouse. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but if you really want to cast the heavy junk, that's probably the best way to go. But other than that, thanks for watching, and holler if I can be of any help.